This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
BooBaes. Hi,
Hello, and welcome to
BooBaes.
BooBaes. That's right. We're your hosts. I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Joshua.
And today we're here to talk to you about a listener request that has been requested not one, not two, not three, four, five, six, but 7 times.
But yes, by our faithful listener, Mr. Andrew.
Andrew,
And it
my
is
boyf.
her boyf, and it is an American crime thriller directed by David Fincher and written by Andrew Kevin Walker.
David Fincher's done lots of movies, but I don't have any of them pulled up right now. Do you?
Oh, I can list them for you. We've got this. This is technically his second film, but his first film was Alien 3. And a lot of people kind of write that off because it's like a lot of people kind of say it's one of the worst out of the Alien movies.
Okay.
And then after that, he did a lot of other really famous movies like Fight
Fight
Club,
Club.
Panic Room, Zodiac, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Gone Girl. Like he's the curious case of the Benjamin Button, The Social Network. So he's
Wide variety of movies.
definitely has a good level of experience under his belt. Like you said, in a wide variety of different genres and different, also a lot of different big actors that he's worked with throughout his career.
Yeah,
Looking at all these
speaking
movies.
of big actors, this movie has some big actors in it as well. We've got Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, Kevin
Mhm.
Spacey, Gwyneth
Mhm.
Paltrow.
Yeah, looking very young, very fresh-faced, Gwyneth.
Oh yeah.
Like, almost at some certain times, like, she almost looked, like, unrecognizable, you know what I mean?
Mm,
Because I was like, "Whoa, she looks so, like, baby-faced as well." I wonder how old she
yeah.
was when they filmed this.
95. We could look up her birthday.
I gotcha. I'm doing it
Okay.
right now. She was born in '72, so in '95, she was, like, 20-something,
23.
23. Well, that's when it was released in '95, so presumably it was probably filmed, like, a year or 2 beforehand, so she's probably, like,
Yeah.
21 or something like that, yeah. That's crazy. It's crazy how, like, a lot of act like, it's so crazy because Hollywood really is, and, like, it all really, I guess, just is kind of a clique or a club, I guess. Because
Yeah, it's
like
all about who you know.
yeah, yeah, and just also because well, you think about it, and like we watched a lot of movies where these actors are in them now, and it's almost like we've gotten to a point where like I'm just so used to have seen them for forever that they're just so like it's just like yeah, we're seeing another movie with Gwyneth Paltrow or Scarlett Johansson or someone else, which they're amazing. I love them, but then
Hmm.
it's like I guess you don't realize like it almost feels like it's a, like uh, um why don't we have, like, more? Does that make sense? Like, more big names. Does that make sense?
Oh
It's
yeah.
like how there's tiers, like, you it's like pop stars, it's like tiers of pop stars, you know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
I don't know if I'm starting to get make sense, but, like, it just feels like I guess not everybody can be, like, big names like that, but it's just, like, it feels though it's, like, where are the other, like, great actors? I don't feel like there's great actors anymore, and maybe that's what I'm saying, or maybe I sound old now. Maybe I'm sounding like, "They don't make music like they used to
Back in my day.
back in my day." Mhm. I don't know if any of that makes sense, but I feel like it
Yeah. I
like,
feel
who's our
like
next Leonardo? Like,
yeah.
Leonardo's just been Leonardo, like, you know what I mean? I think
I feel like I feel like it has to do with society's attention span too.
Mhm.
Because like Jennifer Lawrence was huge for a little bit and was in every movie possible. And then
Mhm.
now she's kind of faded into the background.
Mhm.
And same with like, I don't know,
Kristen
like
Stewart
people just end up get
or her.
typecasted. And yeah, Kristen Stewart's still doing stuff though. So I feel like she's not as obscure. We've got like Robert Pattinson. He's in a lot and has
Mhm.
done really great things
Yeah. I think now, I
and
guess,
has
like,
stayed
he's
relevant.
coming into its own. But even
Timothy
then,
Chalamet's still in his like,
his beginning phase.
yeah, beginning phase. So I don't think people have moved on from him yet.
Well, anyways, that was a tangent. But yes, we have all these amazing actors and an amazing director, and we have a film that is
And we have
kind of.
Howard Shore directing all the music, who
Mhm.
fucking, I wrote, holy shit, Howard fucking Shore made the music for this movie. He made all the Lord of the Rings soundtracks.
Oh, okay, yeah. Hobbit. Who's
Do
worked
do
with the
do do do
Eurythmics. Oh,
do
cool.
do. Do,
Um,
do, do, boo, 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 boo.
there's a lot there. So a lot of talented people going into making this film, and it's kind of set in this like almost like it gives like when movies
Real
are.
grungy New York
Mhm.
or big
It's
city. Was it New
yeah.
York?
I want to say it was giving it probably New York. Yeah, I was thinking like Chicago vibes or something.
Chicago.
No, it's New York City. Yeah, it's set in New York City, but and in the late 1980s at that.
Yeah, because they
So,
say that they were up in uh upstate New York before they moved here.
hmm,
Gwyneth and Brad Pitt,
gotcha. Yeah,
Tracy and Mills.
I'm pretty sure it's New York City, and it's saying that it was based on the writer's like experiences living in New York City during the late 1980s.
Mm.
So yeah, very much. But it's also to me, it kind of felt like Sin City, almost in a way. I don't know if you've ever seen
Yeah.
that, or like it
Mhm.
just felt like kind of like adjacent to our Earth, but like a different multiverse, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially the way it was raining throughout the entire like every single day, which I know was on purpose by that director and stuff. And like it just felt like its own little pocket of a world where stuff was going on.
A really gray, dreary world. Did you just kick your microphone off? Oh, you unplugged it. Okay. But it's hello? Oh, now I hear you again.
Oh, my bad.
Okay.
All right.
But yeah, it's a very gray, dreary world that we've immersed ourselves into.
Mhm,
So to start off the movie, we're with Somerset, Morgan Freeman's character, getting ready for work, basically.
mhm,
And there's a lot of scenes in this movie where it's like this could have been an outtake. Like
mm,
there's one part where Brad Pitt is walking to another, like walking into the lawyer's office,
mhm.
and it shows him walking the whole time.
Yeah.
And I was like, nowadays they would like, I didn't mind it at all. I'm not saying it was a bad thing, but
Mhm.
like it showed his whole path all the way there when like they could have just shown him like
A cut too.
opening a door and then cut to opening the other door
Yeah.
and getting into the room. Um So I just was like, there was a lot of scenes and a lot of dialogue in this movie that was like not irrelevant. Like it all built on the character,
Mhm. But you felt
but
like this was kinda more, like, redundant or, like, obvious?
yeah, and it just was like it definitely still added to the humanity of the character and made you more emotionally attached to them.
Mhm.
But it just was like, okay, get to the point.
Maybe maybe, like, he was trying to over explain to, like, the audience or, like, didn't let us just
Yeah, I will
make our
say I
own
did
assumptions.
see a lot of stuff coming,
Mhm.
like the
It's
head
predictable.
in the box. Spoiler. I was like, the moment that his wife left him a voicemail, I was like, oh no.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then and then like he
Oh, yeah,
mentioned his
whenever the
wife.
secretary
Yeah.
was like, "She left you a voicemail," or something like that or whatever.
Yeah. I was
Mhm.
like, she's gonna die.
Mhm.
Actually, even before that, like the moment she said she was pregnant, I was like, something's gonna happen to her.
Mhm.
And then when she left the voicemail, I was like, "Oh no, she's gonna be dead." And then as soon as they were like, he was like, got a package to deliver." I was like, "Shit, it's her head." Then he pulled out the box and it was like head size, and I was like, "Yeah, that's her head."
Caitlin, you're
And
clairvoyant.
I just knew it.
Well, it definitely, um, led you to also, like, that car ride and the whole scene where he's talking to him, like, you know something's about to happen, you know what I mean? Like, you can already tell that, like, the vibe that's being set, especially with the whole time, this whole movie, especially, um, John Doe, our serial killer, like, he's been kinda, like, poking, like, almost like, he's taking a lot of fun and messing with,
Yeah,
Mills,
yeah.
and very
Also,
much.
your audio just got so like robotic. It was
Oh,
like
is it still doing
no,
it?
it's fine now, but I
Oh.
missed, like, the whole first half of what you were saying.
Just basically that, John Doe is playing into really egging on and really messing with Mills,
Yeah,
and, that whole car ride and the scene leading up to, obviously the box and everything, like, you can already tell, like, "Oh, he's about to do, like, the big one because
yeah,
because you're also just thinking, like, "What's gonna happen?" Because 'Cause they're kind of in the middle of nowhere for this long, like,
mhm,
back and forth, talking to each other.
yeah,
Um
and
Mhm,
the way that he says, like, "You're gonna see," like, "You're
mhm,
gonna pay attention," basically. I was
yeah,
like, "Mm, that's him."
a lot of vague threats, but we
Yeah,
are opening up, like we said, with, like, the city, very dreary, very rainy, with Somerset, and also, I guess, important to note that he's, like, what? Like, a few days or, like, a week or something from retiring, like, he's about to
yeah,
end his career. So, this is, like, the last case of his life that he's not even supposed to be on, essentially,
yeah.
right? Mhm,
Yeah, and they're, like, going in, investigating a domestic violence case,
mhm,
and, basically, this is where he, like, divulges, like or we divulges to the audience, like, yeah,
mhm,
that he is getting he's going into retirement.
mhm.
Sorry.
No,
Um,
you're good.
Something popped up on my screen, and I was like, "What's happening?"
It's
But
our attention spans.
it went away. Um And so then this is where we get introduced to Detective Mills, who is Brad Pitt.
Mhm,
And basically they're having little banter back and forth. And he was like, he basically is saying, like, I fought to get reassigned here. Like, I wanted to be here.
mhm,
And Somerset is like, well, I'm fighting to get out of here. Like,
yeah.
literally want to be anywhere but here, and he's retiring in 7 days. So yeah,
Ah,
it's it's 1 week. And then um
there's a lot of play on the number 7 as well in the movie.
yeah.
Um, But
Because
yeah,
then it's also the 7 deadly sins, and we get a murder basically each day until the end.
yeah, and it's really setting up as well, like, the kind of relationship so far right now with, like, Somerset being, like, the old seasoned cop, and then Mills being the hot-headed, like, rookie cop who
Feisty.
just yeah, feisty, who's kinda goes in guns blazing, where Somerset is more of like, "I've seen some shit."
Yeah,
Mhm,
exactly. And um he's like talking to him and he's like basically saying, I want you to look, I want you to listen.
mhm.
And you're gonna we're gonna get through these last 7 days together. And so basically we're transitioning from like we find out later that Mills is taking over his office and everything. So like
Basically taking his position, essentially.
yeah. So they're
Mhm.
transitioning from one detective basically to another in the same level of
Just
everything.
would that be called, like, precinct or something like that?
Precinct, yeah, that's what I wrote.
And so they're transitioning, they're doing that. So it's very much that scenario of like the old queen and then the new queen. So of course, there's going to be some natural tension between them. And then we cut to what is it, Morgan? It shows Morgan, Somerset, just having to use the metronome to go to sleep, right?
Yeah, yeah, he's in
Hmm.
bed, and we've
Hmm.
got the metronome going into then a title sequence, which, um, and then I was like, very AHS or AHS would be like this,
Yeah,
and then it actually was Nine Inch Nails that
was on
I'm,
the sound to the song.
yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Hmm.
And doesn't Nine Inch Nails do the AHS American Horror Story title sequence as well?
I don't know, did they? Do they? Does
I
he?
I think they do.
But do.
Google it.
Yeah, I'm doing it right now. But that would be really cool. I didn't know that they did that. Do,
I feel like they
do.
had some hand in it. I also could be entirely wrong though. Ow, it might just sound like them.
No, you're right. You're right. You're right. Yeah, no. He is Charlie Clouser. Makes the horror. Yeah, he's done it for each of them.
Okay, that's what I thought. And then I'm pretty sure this was Nine Inch Nails because it had one little blip of the lyrics at the end of the title sequence,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember that being a Nine Inch Nails song. So,
Yeah, it's a member of Nine Inch Nails. I don't think it's the main guy, but it's one of the guys from it. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we get our title card 7 spelled SE, the number 7, EN, nice and
Mhm.
simple. And then we've got the unsettling sounds and music as we go through the title sequence. This is where I wrote, holy shit, Howard fucking Shore made the music for this movie. And then I was really confused because I was like, this is way out of Howard Shore's like Will Park or that I know him for, like
Mhm.
being the Lord of the Rings and stuff. But then
Yeah.
I was like, oh wait, I think that actually was a Nine Inch Nails song. And then I was like, no wonder it sounded like AHS.
Yeah. And it has that same kind of graphic style almost in the background as well with like, stuff pertaining to the movie and kind of foreshadowing things that are going to happen. And also, I know that they also kept Kevin Spacey's name from this title sequence to kind of keep up with like how we didn't see who John Doe was until
Yeah.
they wanted us to. So pretty cool on that part. Um, and
Surprise.
surprise, there's Kevin Spacey. Hi,
Kevin
hello.
Spacey.
Pre
Hello.
pre allegations. And so we have this title sequence kind of taking, it's got a little time, and then after that we cut to Monday. And we are with Tracy and she's
Mills.
talking Mills, yeah, and they're in bed, right?
Yeah, they're waking up and he gets a
Hmm.
phone call like while she's still sleeping, and he like answers it real fast, and then she says something about like, I thought we came here to get away from something, but I forget what she said.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know. It's,
She's just kind of teasing
morning time.
him and being like, what
She's
the hell?
nagging.
I'm sleeping. Yeah.
Just kidding. And so then he gets a call, obviously, because there's been a victim. There's our
Yep.
first victim. Um, and it is gluttony, right? Is our first sin that we're getting
Mhm.
into, even though we don't know right now necessarily, but
But
we
you can like I wrote, I'm assuming like as soon as we get there and we see a guy dead in spaghetti, I was
yeah,
like, I'm assuming this is gluttony.
yeah,
Um, and then later we'll get to see glutton, like,
on the wall or something, right? On the
yeah,
floor. Because that scene that we're gonna get, murder scene, the killer writes whatever sin is associated with it in some like in blood, I guess,
to
um
really drive it home.
yeah. And so this victim was found days after being dead already, so obviously there's going to be a lot of rigor mortis and
Bloating.
bloating and like nastiness, but it was already a person who was pretty heavy set, and the killer made him eat spaghetti essentially, and they know this, that the killer made him eat and eat and eat until he couldn't, because like of the amount of like spaghetti and food that was like in his body and how bloated he was, and that apparently
His stomach had distant, like
that
stretched out,
and then I
exploded.
guess
Yeah.
they tried to say that he got kicked, or like if like, he got kicked or stabbed or something, or he cut his himself, right? Cut his own flesh off. Was that him?
No, that's the lawyer.
No. Oh, okay, yeah, you're right. But, I guess it was that he was just so distended that his sides were opening up and splitting
Yeah,
open.
like they
Yeah,
like exploded.
yeah.
And his feet and hands were bound, and there's like vomit in a bucket underneath the
Mhm,
table or something.
mhm.
But yeah,
Pretty grotesque.
it's a really nasty scene. There's like cans of spaghetti sauce lined up all along the walls and stuff. Basically,
Mhm,
um, and then this is where we get that, yeah, this man ate till he burst and he was hemorrhaging internally. He ate with a gun pressed against his head. And because remember earlier, Somerset was messing with the back of his head
mhm.
because he saw some like bruising slash just irritation of the skin.
Yeah,
And that was he was like, could that be from, and then the coroner was like, yeah, from a gun pressed against his head.
yeah.
And the victim's throat was swollen, and basically it went on for 12 hours, they say, like just nonstop eating for 12 hours.
That's wild.
Yeah. And spaghetti,
Well,
such a heavy food at that.
yeah, you're full after, like, half a plate.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's obviously really gruesome, and so they're trying to do their investigative and police work of figuring out, like, who, what, when, where, and how, why.
Who,
Um,
what, when, where am I?
two eyes and one, and
This time, turn around, dun, 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 dun. This I love dreams.
dreams. And so, yeah, Mr. Somerset is like kind of like, nah, I don't have time for this. I don't want to do this shit. And then the
Because
like
he also says this is just the beginning.
yeah, he like, I've seen shit like this. This is gonna go on. Like, I don't want
Mhm.
to do this as my last case. Can I want to be. I don't. I want to be taken off of it. But the main, like, I guess their chief of staff, whatever, is like, well, tough titty, said the kitty, because you're gonna do it. Like, I don't have anyone else. You're the guy for the job. We need someone with your experience to handle this.
And
Um,
Mills is like, I'll take it. I'll take it. And
yeah.
the guy's like, no.
Yeah, and even Somerset is just, like, also being like, "You don't want this to be your first case, like, you don't want you don't want to do this. You shouldn't do this. And you also is kind of being also like, you're not experienced enough to handle this either.
Yeah.
Even though I don't want it, like you definitely shouldn't have it. Um, and so, of
And I
course,
feel like
Somerset.
that's also like if you look at it from a second watch, it could be like foreshadowing of like you don't want to get involved with this because you have like people who are close to you
Hmm.
and it could go awry.
Whereas Somerset didn't have anybody.
Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly.
Um,
Um
yes. So they are talking a lot, doing all of this stuff. Um, and then I think at some point, what is it? I think this is whenever we cut to the next day already, right? And there's another
yeah.
murder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Hmm.
Um Tuesday, and we get Eli Gould was found murdered and he was a defense attorney.
Hmm.
And greed is written in blood on the carpet.
And there's a whole press
And
conference for this one and stuff because now it's
yeah,
like becoming
uh,
a thing, I guess.
yeah. And this is like someone of notoriety.
It's true. Yeah.
And they're like, well, shit, this is
Yeah.
not good because he was someone who was somewhat in the public spotlight.
Hmm.
Um, and so greed is written in blood on the carpet. They, um, yeah, and they are like going over, looking over his body, but then he kind of Mills walks in. This is where we get the long sequence of him walking all the way from the press conference area
Hmm.
to the actual room where the murder scene is. And he basically dismisses the two forensics people who are in there and is looking at things. We see the picture of his wife on the desk with like um the glasses drawn over her eyes.
Yeah. And he's looking over everything, doing his inspecting. And then I think this is whenever Somerset arrives, or did Somerset come in at all?
Yeah, I think we actually flash to
Him with the
the
captain or something like
in the
that.
corner
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
because my next note is little pieces of plastic was fed to the glutton
That they found in
in his
his.
stomach
Mhm.
and stuff.
And I think the captain is talking to Somerset, or Somerset's talking to him too about how, um, because I think he's still upset that Mills was like on this on the scene or on the crime about it or whatever, handling the case.
Oh yeah.
Um, but then they're also talking, and I just like my next note is that Somerset is not happy with the world. I think it's just that
Yeah.
his starting to share his views more of how like he's kind of pessimistic.
Yeah, definitely
Hmm.
so.
Hmm.
Yeah, I would say so.
Hmm.
And um yeah, so it was kind of hard to take notes for this movie because there were so many long scenes, kind
Hmm.
of like Ringu, where like
Yeah,
it was like long scenes, but like not a lot happening.
a lot of dialogue, a lot of them talking to each other.
Yeah,
Because also, I think between this and them in the coroner's office, we get the pieces together that Somerset is putting together that this is kind of linking to the sins, because obviously we had gluttony and then we had greed. And he's like, this seems like something like the seven deadly sins. And so
yeah,
that's whenever he decides that he's gonna go to the library to go do like research.
yeah. But because before that, we didn't get gluttony yet. Um,
Mm, mm,
we get the little bits of plastic that was fed to the to glutton. And then he goes back to the crime scene and he sees little scratch marks on the floor, and the plastic was like linoleum from the
mhm,
scratch marks on the floor because they like gave him it and it fit perfectly into it. So he pulls the fridge out and gluttony is written on the wall in grease behind the fridge with a letter that says, long is the way and hard that out of hell leads up to light. And basically, this is where, yeah, then he starts being like, it means that this is the beginning, and we've got the seven deadly sins because we've so far got gluttony, greed, but then we'll have sloth, wrath, pride, lust, and envy.
mhm.
And
Oh,
so
yeah, and then
he
he's talking to Mills about it, and that's when he even looks at Mills when he says envy.
and
Mhm.
he's like, "You can expect 5 more of these."
Yeah.
And then Somerset's being like, "I can't get involved in this, not before I retire." But then he goes, to the library, and we've got him. It's a really cool library. I'm assuming it's the New York Public Library, I
Something like
guess.
that. I
It's
don't know.
I don't know, but it was neat
It's
looking.
huge. Mhm. It
Yeah.
reminds me of the library from Star Wars. That's all. There's this one game, Star Wars, the Sith one, and you have to go through a library, and it just kinda remind me of that.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if it's actually in the movies or not, but yeah. I don't think it is,
Okay.
but
I was
yeah.
like, I don't remember a library,
Yeah.
but
But yeah, he's in there, pretty cool library. Like the guards are playing what, poker or something like that while he's reading up on all this shit.
yeah, and then he's like, we get to see Canterbury Tales from Chaucer, the Divine Comedy from Dante,
Mhm.
and we're just like looking at all these big books that mention the 7 deadly sins. And we see that they're both basically doing their homework, but
Mhm.
sorry, they're
Is
like,
that a
I don't know if
ghost?
you heard. They're breaking ground on the house across from us.
Oh, okay.
So
I kinda
there's
hate
a lot
something.
of like concrete being like rumbled around.
Well, it was only that one time I heard
It
it. It was
sounds like
just
thunder.
that's what, yeah, it's not, or it's kinda sounded like a deep, like, growl, like like, when people do EVP or whatever it's called, and then they hear
Yeah.
a ghost say something, that's what it kinda sounded like.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, they're both doing their homeworks. Mills is like looking at like photographs of like the crime scene of the glutton, and trying to like piece together his own idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
And then
And
we cut to him the
he
next day at the
yeah,
office, right? Mhm.
yeah, because he leaves a note on Mill's desk with his findings basically. Because like he was like, I went off this case, but then still it's like he's still
Is
intrigued enough that he's
mhm.
like, I gotta go research this. And so he goes and he leaves a note on Mill's desk, and then it says Wednesday.
Mhm. Wednesday,
And
and
then
then
they're in the office together. Or
because
the
well, what's
director
his
comes in first.
yeah. Um, and then they have a whole whatever conversation. And then it's kind of showing like the dynamic of Mills having to move into Somerset's office. And then as they're
Mhm.
in the office, that's whenever um they're in there for a little bit, and then we get a phone call, and it's Mills' wife, Tracy, and it's definitely like the first day on the job type of vibes, and he's just like, "I told you not to call me up here," or something like that. Or I don't know, but she's like, "I want to speak to Somerset," and
Yep.
so he hands the phone off to Somerset, and they're talking, and they're having a little dialogue. And when he hangs up, it's funny because he just gives the phone back to Mills, and they just like that's the end of it. And
Yeah. Mills
I love
is
how
like,
Mills is just
"Hello?"
like, what was that about? And then
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, well, your wife invited me to dinner, and I was trying to decline, but she was adamant, so I'm gonna go over to your house,
Been
essentially, for dinner
invited to a
tonight."
late supper at the Millses'
Yeah,
apartment.
uh-huh. And so, which we do, we end up cutting to them getting there at the end of the day. And I like how Tracy and Mills greeted each other. They're like, "Hi, loser. Hi, idiot."
Yeah.
And we get to see more of Mills' at home life.
Yeah. And they're just like enjoying their time.
He's got lots of
And
doggos.
yeah, and he goes plays with his dogs, and Tracy and Somerset are left to talk, and he's like, smells good, and she's like, yeah. And then she was like, oh wait, thank you.
Mhm.
And but then they're just sitting there, and then they're at dinner basically, and she's going off onto like, damn, why aren't you married, William? Which is Somerset's first name.
Yeah.
And then he basically responds with, anyone who spends a specific amount of time with me finds me disagreeable. And you can see Mills kind of be like, yeah,
Yup.
no shit. Because they're really not close right now.
What does that mean? Like, to be disagreeable? Like, he's super, like, kind of complicated to be with or something?
Yeah, just like not easy to be around.
Okay, I got it.
Always has something to say.
Mhm, mhm. And, yeah, so, I mean, they're honestly having really decent conversation. I think at one point they start to, like, well, the train goes by, and then they have
Mhm.
a whole, thing where, Mills is like, "Damn our salesperson because he didn't tell us about, this train going by like this and only brought us at, like, 5-minute intervals," or something like that.
Ow.
Um,
Yeah.
and then they have,
Sorry,
like, a
my
good
nail like
laugh.
almost ripped off. Yeah, they're laughing
Well, Alan, yeah, over I don't even remember what,
over
but
the train, the
the train
subway.
because I think more Somerset made some sort of little joke, and then, yes, they're just laughing over it, and then, they start to, that's it. It was just a nice little, I guess, building moment for us to see all 3 of them together. I guess also to have Somerset care about Tracy and about Mills and build
Yeah.
their rapport.
And no, so like he needed to know Tracy in order to
Care.
have the ending make sense.
Yeah. And
Also, I think your mic might be coming halfway unplugged.
hello?
Yeah, because you sound like you're underwater right now.
Well,
But then it like will come back in fully and then it'll go. I think it sounds better now.
let's see. Hello?
That's good.
You can hear me right now?
Oh, no. Went back out.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. It just sounds not good.
Hello? Basically, so weird.
Yeah, because then now I can hear you really well.
Like right now?
I can't tell.
Let me see. Okay, try that. Okay. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me. Does it still sound super muffled?
I know it sounds okay right now.
That's so weird because it sounds fine, but like if you look at this, it's like in red mode, which usually means that I'm muted.
Oh, like on. Well, mine's in red mode, but
Oh.
as long as this, you can change the color of it.
Yeah. Oh. Yours is in red mode? That's so weird. Maybe
I
mine
mean,
wasn't
this
working
light
before.
is green.
Yeah. That one's green too, but usually, because I know when I
This
click
light
this, it'll.
turns red. Yeah. And then now I can't hear you.
I swear that this light has never come on for me before until just
Oh,
now.
really? Weird. Yeah, you press the button on the bottom to change the color.
Maybe I had mine off. Mine was off.
Oh.
So
Yeah, I
then
always have
me
mine plugged in.
replugging it on was like doing something. Oh, okay. Ooh. Wait, what?
There's a rainbow.
I know, I just saw it a second ago, which I like. I like that one. Okay. So sorry about that interruption for about 2 minutes.
It was around 44 minutes, 43 minutes. So I'll text them.
And so
But
we
then,
are after dinner. We're going over the case, right?
yeah, they're working on the case together.
Mm-hmm.
And we're now looking at the details of what happened with the lawyer guy, I believe, and how they learned that like he had to essentially cut out like a pound of his own flesh to try to like get free, um, or to end his to be able to survive, essentially. Um, and
And he was
it's
like
called, oh yeah.
bound.
And we're getting more, Somerset's talking about, what's it called? Like forced attrition or something like that, and
Yeah, the
how
murders are forced attrition. And
uh-huh.
it said 1 pound of flesh, no more, no less. No cartilage, no bone, but only flesh. This task done, and he would go free. And it
Yeah,
says he's preaching.
he's preaching, that's what Somerset is saying because the killer's trying to make a point more or less, and forced attrition is apparently when people are sorry for their sins, but not because they are genuinely sorry or apathetic for them, but because they are being like forced to be like sorry for them,
Yeah.
essentially. Uh-huh. And so as they're going through all this and they're learning, I think we see it's like the next day or something, and we start with Tracy waking up or something like that. Or
Um,
there's a camera scene where it pans to her waking up
oh, okay.
because she's either waking up in the middle of the night or something. I don't remember if it's the same night or the next day, but I just remember that the guys, they're going to go see Mrs. Gold,
Yeah, they're gonna go see
the
her.
wife.
And they found out that there's no fingerprints, no witnesses.
Mhm.
And yeah, because they're going to go see Gold's wife because she had the glasses painted on her, like I said earlier. And
They think she might be
Mills is
next.
like, yeah, they're like, what was she supposed to see? They're
Mhm.
like, she's could see something that maybe we can't in
Mhm.
this. So they make her look at the fucking crime scene photos, which is just like, holy shit, that's so traumatic.
Mhm. And she's obviously
Looking at
having
her
a hard
dead
time
husband,
looking at them, and she doesn't want to.
mutilated body.
And she's almost doesn't help them, but she does happen to notice, like in the last like frame or shot picture that they end up showing her, that there's a painting in their house and it has been flipped upside down.
Yep.
And so this thing leads them to think that it's a clue, so they end up going there and they pull the painting off the wall, and Somerset cuts the back of it in order to get it open, but there's nothing in the painting.
Very national treasure.
Yeah. And so I believe that what
They
did they do after that?
so basically because it was hung upside down, they realized like that they would have had to have like changed how they hung it on the
Mhm.
wall. So then they start dusting the wall for fingerprints,
That's true.
and they find little fingerprints, and then also something that says help me,
Mhm.
written in like the grease of someone's fingers,
Mhm.
because they dusted it up. Um, and then so they're like looking and going through the fingerprints, but then the guy who's going through the database is like, literally, I've seen this take like 3 days before. Go wait somewhere else. Like, y'all are annoying me.
Mhm. Yeah. Is this where they go and take their nap on the couch or
Yeah.
no? Yeah.
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 And they have a really pessimistic conversation because again on Somerset's side, because he basically is saying like, we're not getting anywhere. We're picking up the pieces, putting everything into neat little piles, picking up diamonds on a deserted island in case anyone tries to rescue us, but we're not getting anywhere. And then Mills is like, no, we're getting somewhere. Mills is like very, again, the gung ho, like
Mhm.
ready, and you know, he believes in
Kinda
them.
naive
And
almost.
yeah, naive. And Somerset is just very, again, pessimistic and not really believing that they're making a difference yet.
Add that word to the list of words that are like have a negative
Mhm.
connotation, but like it's so pretty if it was someone's name, like naive. It's so
Mm,
pretty.
naive. I
Naive.
like I think I've told you before that I would name my daughter Jezebel.
I mean, that's pretty, yeah.
It's
Uh,
really pretty, but it
chlamydia,
means like
beautiful,
yeah.
beautiful name. Like, I just you know what I mean? Like, it just has a nice ring to it other than, like, you know, murder, like,
Murder.
murder. Anyways, and so we are taking our cute little gay nap together on the couch. I thought it was really
Mhm.
cute because Mills ends up like having his head like on Somerset at the end of his
Yeah.
nap as like the chief's walking by, like, wake up, pussies, or I don't know what he says, but he's like
Yeah.
um getting them up because there's another fucking murder.
Yep, and well, the fingerprints come across
Oh
and
yeah.
they're like, "We've got our guy." And
Hmm.
so like the rest of the precinct is like pinning it on this one man but Mills and Somerset aren't buying it. They're like, "I don't think this is our guy." They're like, "Our killer seems to have more purpose."
Yeah.
And so like then they're in the car discussing again, having very long dialogue. And this is where I was like, all these little bits of dialogue really give some depth and humanity to our characters.
Hmm.
Um,
But also make for a long movie.
yes, a 2 hour long movie, as
Yes.
it was. But then yeah, they're basically raiding this guy's residence. And I was like, he gonna be dead.
Mhm.
And
Especially
then
because of the look of the situation.
yeah, whenever they were climbing so many flights of stairs and stuff, I was like, "He dead." And then they walked in and all the air fresheners were hanging from the ceiling, and I was like, "Oh, he dead, dead." And
Yeah,
then I was wrong because it
he's
was
not dead.
written, and I was like, "Is this sloth too?"
Mhm.
And then I was like, "Yep, it's sloth." And then he's not dead. He comes to life. And I was like, oh my God, he's alive.
Scares the heebie-jeebies out of everybody in the room. And they are having to help this poor dude because he has been essentially, um, been tortured and emaciated and, like, essentially kept to be alive, but on, like, the edge of death for, like,
Yeah.
ever. Yeah. Um, and so we have them oh, and also I think, uh, whenever they were filming, I don't know if you have fun facts, but this was apparently a moment kinda like Alien, where they, like, didn't they thought that he was, like, a wax doll or, like, a figurine or, like, a prop. They didn't know that it was a real, like, actor who was just made to look
Oh,
like that, and so, like,
yeah.
when he starts coughing, like, their, like, spooked reactions were, like, their genuine, like,
Genuine. Oh,
scared reactions, yeah.
yeah. Um, that's cool.
Yeah.
And we basically find out that he kept him there for a whole year. He like chewed off his own tongue long ago. So they were like, they can't ask him any questions or anything
Mhm, mhm.
because even if he could talk and like not die from the shock of everything, then he still want to be able to talk because he chewed off his tongue a long time ago.
Yeah.
Um, and then so they get him to the hospital and stuff safely and securely. We don't ever know if he fully dies.
Mm-mm.
Because the last we see, he's just in the hospital, and they're like, even like if a camera flash went off, like he would die from shock.
Yeah.
But we don't know if he ever actually dies. Um, at least I don't remember them saying that.
I
But
don't think so.
then we get home, right? And Tracy calls Somerset.
Yeah, I believe so. She calls him because she wants to meet up with him, right?
Yeah, she says she needs someone to talk to.
Mhm. And Somerset was like, "You ain't got
Talk
nobody
to
else?"
your husband.
For real. But she's like, "No, I need to talk to you." She's pretty adamant. And so they end up meeting, right? Not she meet up with
Yeah.
somebody? Yeah, they end up meeting and they're at the diner, the same diner. I think we've already been to this diner. If not, we come to this diner again. But That's Steiner,
And it's
and then
Friday.
it's Friday, and she's having a conversation with Somerset, and essentially she divulges to him that she is pregnant, um,
Yeah. And
and
hates the city.
hates the city, only moved here essentially because of her love for her husband. And so she's just kind of like essentially just asking Somerset for his, wisdom and advice. And um, he divulges to her, doesn't he say that he like got with someone and like his partner got pregnant or something like that?
Mhm.
And so, yeah, just a lot of heavy conversation.
'Cause,
Also
yeah, he
goes on for a while.
basically tells
Hmm.
her not to tell him yet
Hmm.
because he whenever he found out his partner was pregnant, he says he felt a fear, and he was like, "How can I bring a child into a world like this?" And, like, woke up and realized, like, he just now had more on the line.
Hmm.
And so over the next few weeks, he says, I wore her down. And he says, like, don't tell him till you decide. And if you don't keep the baby, don't ever tell him that you are pregnant. And he goes,
Mhm,
but if you do, spoil a kid every chance you get.
mhm. And so this helps to put things in perspective for her and also give us like a lot of kind of or some insightfulness and some clarity to like why he is the way he is and why he's kind of super like kind of stoic and kind
Mm.
of very realistic and not pessimistic, but he's super realist, like realism. Like he's just like the world's fucked and
Yeah.
everybody's kind of messed up, and so they're doing that, and then after that conversation, I believe this is whenever he's back with Mills and they're trying to figure out how to like get information. So they're talking about how like there's a secret way the FBI like tracks, or not FBI, but they track people through like the library databases or search databases or something like that when they
Hmm.
check out books. And so I probably skipped over something because that's just what my next note is
They
that they're
just
gonna try and get
basically
the name
they're just talking about him and
in
like
the case.
and how like he kept that guy there for exactly a year, because it says we walked into the apartment 1 year to the day, and
Hmm.
he said this guy is methodical, exacting, and worst of all, patient.
Hmm.
And so then, yeah, then they're meeting the guy for info, and we find out that it's a friend from the bureau. And so anyone who checks out a flag book gets their info sent to the FBI, like a book about murder or something like that. And
Hmm.
like how to kill people, how to be a serial killer, like your shit would get flagged.
Is that like what happens when people search now on the internet for shit like that?
Yeah, I feel like
Right?
Suki is here.
So cute. Hi, Suki. Suki-chan.
Suki-chan, Nani Dusky,
Nanitas.
Chachuminto.
So cute. And where's my baby? My baby's probably under the bed right now. And so we are now getting oh yeah, we've got a name from the database. We got a name. And so it
John
leads them
Doe.
John Doe of all names, and it leads them to an apartment though. And so we get this information. We're going to the apartment. Also long kind of take of them getting to through and into this apartment complex. And when they finally get there, they're at the door and they're like, okay, this is it. And so as they're knocking on the door, we have someone walking up and they are all the way down the hallway. So he sees him and it's like a kind of standoffish moment. But bam, shots fired because this person just starts to shoot at them.
Yeah,
And
which
then,
was wild. I was like, "Oh my god."
yeah, and it very
I was
quickly
not
turns
expecting
into
that.
a foot chase, and it's
Mhm.
between them three. And Mills is keeping up pretty well, honestly, and he's doing his thing, trying to stay on his tail. But this dude is just like one probably knows the area, knows the apartment complex, knows all the in and outs because he's probably thought of it. but ends up
Yeah.
going to like people's apartments, like through the roof. Like now we jumped off the roof or into like a whole other block. It's a really long chase scene. It's actually really thrilling. But then Mills at one point gets knocked out by the John Doe with like I guess he got pistol whipped,
Yeah, I wrote,
right?
"Damn, pistol whip from the top of the truck." And
Hmm.
apparently he got, like, shot or something or broke his arm because he was, like, holding his arm up
Yeah,
and then he also was covered in a lot of blood. So I was like, "Did he also get shot?" I couldn't tell it everything was happening so fast.
I think it was just
Um,
from like the different
Suki,
like
what the hell are you doing?
jumps and whatever, very parkour giving moment. And so then they also were back at the apartment because they want to go inside, but they can't go inside because they're like Somerset is the one who's like, well, we can't go in because we can't really divulge how we even got here. It wouldn't hold up in court because it wasn't necessarily legal. And so then Mills is just like, well, whatever. And he kicks the door down and they then go into the apartment. They obviously find a whole bunch of incriminating stuff. So they end up paying a vagrant, an unhoused person, to basically be their witness and claim that they, saw this guy and they thought like, oh, he has something to do with the murders. And so that's what gives them probable cause on paper to like have gone into the apartment. So now that they're in the apartment, they're searching, and I think now we have like all of the police, like the fools, whatever, NYPD, whoever they are, on
And it's
investigating.
definitely their guy.
Yeah, definitely, because this apartment is just giving killer vibes. And then they're what they find a bunch of things connected to the murders. They
Yeah, there's
no
religious
fingerprint.
iconography everywhere, pictures of all the murders thus far, and then like little trophies from the murders, like the cans of spaghetti and
Mhm.
the pound of flesh and stuff like that.
And
Like,
this person has no fingerprints throughout the entire apartment, and they had like essentially what was their currency, which is all cash, so they don't do
yeah,
anything
with their bank
electronically.
account.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's wild. This person definitely is doing, and this is what they're saying is they're like, well, he is intentionally doing everything in his power to be a John Doe, which makes him even the more like dangerous, essentially.
Yeah. And basically then we're in the uh, Mills goes into the bathroom after like being in the dark room. And
Mm-hmm.
in the tub developing, he sees the photo of himself from which we forgot to mention that earlier because I didn't think it was that important.
Right?
Um,
You don't
but
at that point.
yeah, like he earlier there was a photographer that came up the stairs right after one of the first murders and they were like, "How do you know about this? Like, get out of here, blah blah blah." And he like takes a picture of Mills, and their Mills is like fighting the guy,
Mhm.
and the guy's like, "I've got your picture, blah."
Yeah,
And he's like, "Them damn photographers." And they're just fighting. And then we find out that the guy, they had him, the guy in the stairwell that was a photographer was their person.
yeah, he was the one who took the picture all along. And it just goes to show that like throughout the movie there are kind of little Easter eggs throughout the movie. And I'm trying to think because I wonder if the reason why they show so like extra between them going through different places is I know for a fact on some scenes like they have John Doe, the Kevin Spacey, like he's in the background following them like the entire movie essentially.
Mm,
So I wonder if that's why they showed the
yeah,
longer scenes in Good Place to show, like, if you go rewatch, she's probably there, like, in the corner in a trench
in the
coat somewhere.
background. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they are, yeah, like you said, now he's like, Mills is even more hella pissed off because he's like, fucking had him. And so this is, I got a bit ahead of myself, but this is now where like all the police come in and they're doing all that shit and they're investigating. Now they're looking over all the shit. And then, after that, we're now I think we're still yeah, we're at the place. We're still there. Now they're getting more and more information. But as they're there investigating, the killer calls because the phone starts ringing and they're like, "Where's the phone? Where's the phone?" And then Mills finds it and her bushy tail. Mills finds it and he starts to talk to the killer, John Doe. And John Doe is basically like, he's like, "I admire you," or something like that. Or like,
Yeah, he says, "I admire you," and then basically says, like, he's adjusting his schedule in light of today's little setback.
hmm. And so you can tell that he wasn't expecting obviously for them to like find his lair, and so it's kind of thrown his trajectory, I guess his plan off a bit. But now it is Sunday, I believe, right?
Yeah, I missed some of them.
On the days now.
Um,
I'm pretty sure that we are now. No, 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 it's not Sunday yet. My bad, my bad. Because after the killer calls, I think they get another clue because for some reason they go to the nightclub, the sex club.
yeah, they find that he had something commissioned and made for him,
Mhm.
and then, they were like, "You made this for him?" And he's like, "I've made more fucked up shit before." And they
Mhm.
take the picture, and that's all we get to see, but it is a clue, and they get the next murder, and they're in a nightclub.
Yeah.
And basically, it was like a knife strap on is what it was,
Mhm. Yeah.
and he forced someone to basically have sex with a woman with a knife attached to him in the
He was held
pelvic
at
area.
gunpoint to do it,
He said
which
the gun was down his throat.
mhm. Yeah, that part is pretty hard. That's a pretty tough watch.
Yeah, I was like,
Pretty
"Holy shit, that must have been brutal."
yeah. And so and that dude is obviously like the dude getting interrogated is like having a mental breakdown because of what he was made to do. Um,
Yeah.
but also just like yeah, just pretty horrible. And this sin is lust.
Yeah.
It's showing lust, and then they're interrogating the owner, and the dude, and all of that shit. And then after the interrogations, this is when we come to the next day, and it's Sunday, and this is whenever they find the next murdered victim, because it was the model and the high rise.
Yeah.
And
And
her face was disfigured and was basically left with a note that was like, "You can call the cops and save yourself, but be disfigured the rest of your life, or you can just die, so that way you don't have to live like yeah,
live
unfortunate looking."
ugly.
Yeah. And so at this point,
And this
they're
one is pride because she kinda swallowed her pride.
yeah, to
So
just save her own life.
she had sleeping pills glued to one hand and a phone glued to the other. And then they're going back to the precinct, and then, we see this man get out of a cab behind them, and, he's walking up, and he is like, "Detective," and they don't
Mhm.
hear him, and he's like, "Detective," they still don't hear him, and then he's like, "Detective!" So they
Yeah.
finally turn around and they're like, "What the hell?" And then he's like, "I think you've been looking for me." And
Covered with blood. And they're just like, Get him, swarm him, put him." Like, I love how,
he's like, "Get
why
on
is
the
it,
ground, motherfucker. Get on the ground, you piece of shit."
yeah, why
Mills
is it,
was so mean.
and also, why is it that, like, he's literally, like, turning himself in and he's literally, like, as if he's resisting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, but and so, yeah, the dude's turning himself in, and, it's pretty crazy at the station, and so this is whenever we're with Somerset and Mills and I like their chief and someone else, and then what's his John Doe's lawyer, and John Doe's lawyer is basically saying like, "All right, my client is ready to make a deal. He will confess to everything and he'll go guilty, and show you where the next two victims are, only if Somerset and Mills take him to those bodies." Like he has to be unaccompanied, like just them. Um, or if they don't, he will not show them where the next two victims are, and he will plead insane. So basically, kind of like get off the for all these murders essentially, and not have to do
Yeah.
real time. And so they're
Did you
ki-
mention that he cuts off all his fingerprints and that's why they
oh
can't
no,
find
yeah.
the prints?
Yeah, also
Yeah.
that. He cuts off all of his fingerprints, so that's why there are no prints and nothing in the like, nothing about him in any database, which means he has to
And
constantly do that, right? Because 'Cause they're just gonna keep healing and growing back, right?
yeah, and then they also say like cuz then they're like, "Well, how do we even know there's two more bodies?" And he's like, "Well, someone was like there was blood from him from cutting off his fingertips, blood from the Pride murder, and then
Mhm.
also blood from an unknown third victim."
Yeah. Which dun dun dun, Tracy. But anyways,
Tracy.
yeah, unfortunately. And so they're like, well, kind of in a between a hark and rock,
Rock
a
in a
rock
hard
and a hard
place.
place because they want it to end, but they also like essentially almost want to see it through and save like whoever these other two victims are. So they agree to it, and Somerset and Mills are like getting ready to like wear like wires. They're like shaving. They're having conversations. Tracy's coming up a lot, so you can tell something's going to happen. Because like Mills is basically just talking about like him and Tracy and like how I guess it's not fair that like they're about to put this guy away and he's gonna be like essentially like taken care of and like have housing and have cable and like him and Tracy don't even have cable. Um,
Yeah.
and uh him and Somerset, it's kind of also too we're getting to this point where they're you can tell in their relationship they've like actually kind of grown fond of each other at this point
Yeah.
and like are like actual partners. They care about each other, you know. But as they're now then what? It's now time to get they're getting in the car with him and they're getting ready to transport him. Or not as they essentially don't even know where they're going because he's just like
No,
turn
yeah,
left,
he's
go forward,
directing them
go
the whole
here.
way. And Somerset asks John who he is, and basically he goes on to say a bunch of stuff, but then about his work, he says people won't be able to comprehend, but they won't be able to deny. And this is where, like, Smills says something about like missing it, and he goes, "Oh, believe me, you won't miss it. You won't miss a thing."
Sure.
And I was like, this is where I was like, it's got to be his wife.
Yeah.
And because then he's dancing in the back seat saying he was chosen. He was like wiggling around with excitement. And he just was like, and they were like, "What are you so excited for?" And he's like, "You'll see."
Yeah.
Um,
He's being very cryptic.
yeah. And then he basically, Mills says something about like killing all these innocent people. And he goes, "Innocent? Like to turn each sin upon the sinner, like they weren't innocent."
Mhm.
And and he said, "Only in a world this shitty could you try and call these people innocent." And he says, "We tolerate the deadly sins morning, noon, and night." And he goes, "What I've done will set the example and people will follow." Um, and then he reminds them that the only reason he's here is because he wants to be. And the only reason that Mills is alive is because he spared you.
Which is
Um,
true, but
yeah, because he
also
held the gun to his head earlier and he could have
um,
pulled the trigger.
and he's really getting in Mills's head because he really is hitting that nerve of like, "You're only here because I let you." And it's almost like striking a nerve with Mill. I mean, even me, like I would feel like, damn, like he's literally he like it's almost so much control and power over a person, you know? It's like
Yeah.
literally your life was in my hands and I let you live. And he's like telling him like what it's the way he worded it where he was like, "And now you get to live the rest of the life that I let you live," or something like
Yeah.
that. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And that really sets Mills off.
Yeah. He's like, "You're no Messiah. You're a fucking t shirt at best."
Mhm. Yeah,
And
'cause this
then he's like, I was doing, and he was like, you just think you're doing God's good work, don't you?
mhm. And, this is whenever they end up, m the John Doe is like, "Well, we're almost there, like, we're getting to where we need to be." And they're in this, like one, it's no longer raining. The one part of the
No,
movie where
it's
it's no longer raining,
sunny
sunny,
and
bright,
almost Arizona-esque looking.
right, really beautiful, and they're in this, like was it like is it corn? Or is it just what type of field? It's like some type of wheat field, or I don't know. But the
Yeah.
plant like, the crop wasn't really grown. It was just, like, all
No.
dead, like, yellowy. And so then, but also, like, a bunch of what are those not cable towers, phone
Yeah.
towers? And so we have a helicopter following, just to, like, I guess, be in pursuit, but then they stop, and when they do, they get out, and then there's a van coming down the road.
Yeah. Uh,
And uh-huh.
because he asks, they get out of the car and there's like
There's
a
a dead
dead
dog.
dog.
Yeah,
And he
yeah,
goes, I didn't do that.
yeah.
Um, and then he asks what time it is, and they say 7:01, and he goes, "It's close," he says. And then yeah, then there's that van rushing down the lane,
Mhm,
and he says, "There he goes." And the van stops, and the guy gets out, and he's like, "Don't shoot, don't shoot."
mhm,
And he gets out, and he's like, "I was just told to deliver a package. I have a package for David, Detective David Mills."
mhm.
And this is where I wrote, I hope it's not his wife's head. And then he's like, he pulls out this box, and I was like, it's
Ooh,
his wife's head.
yeah,
But
and so
then everyone's like, we got a box, we got a box.
mhm.
It was
They
kind
don't
of
know what it
funny.
is, yeah, it was, and then Somerset's having to deal with it, but he's a good whiles away from, Mills and John Doe, but John Doe is on his knees on the ground, and John Doe at this point is starting to taunt, Mills and kinda get in his head a bit, and essentially he starts to bring up Tracy because he's like, "Oh, your wife Tracy, she's so pretty and this and that," and Um, at the same time, Somerset's opening the box. So it's yeah, boop boop, we're going back and forth, and then yeah, lo and
He's
behold,
like, when I said I admired you, I meant what I said.
he's like your
And
wife, your life,
your
essentially.
pretty wife.
And so yeah, it's Tracy's head. Somerset sees it, and he's telling Somerset is now yelling at Mills to put down his gun, to step away,
Trying
to
to
like
stop him before
something bad happens.
before John Doe can like really egg him on more.
Oh,
But then he just keeps going on. And
because
he said, I visited your home this morning. I tried to play husband, but it didn't go very well. So I took a souvenir, her
mhm,
pretty head. And then this is where we get the iconic, what's in the box
mhm.
line. And
And we never
then,
do actually get to see what's in the box, so it's very
well, you get a subliminal flash of it.
for, like, her, like, head in bed, like a
Yeah.
prettier, like, version, but we never do actually, like, see,
You
like, her
see the
physical head.
actual
Yeah,
box.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like, what's
But
but we know it's her head. Yeah,
yeah.
and then Somerset is obviously, like he knows what John Doe is trying to do, like, he's trying to provoke
Do you
Mills to
imagine if he just shook the box and was like, "What's in this?"
oh god, like a Christmas present.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I can't imagine, like, seeing your head, like, cut, like, bloodied and, like, in a thing. Like, also, like, what does it look like? Are you just, like are you, like are you, like, sleepy? Are you, like
Screaming
yeah, Like, did he put an apple in it? Like, I don't know.
like a little roast pig.
Yeah, and so, unfortunately, John Doe just keeps egging Mills on, and he is essentially claiming, like, "You are like, I want you to go ahead, like, do it, like, you will become Wrath, like, you will fulfill Wrath, and I guess that because I admired your life so much, I am envy, and you will kill me, and it will be because I was the sin of envy." And so, he's essentially trying to get Mills to be his accomplice and get in on it. And yeah, there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of tension, and um, Mills ends up shooting John Doe in the head.
Yep. And because he also says she begged
Oh,
for her life and for the life of the baby inside of her.
yeah.
And then he was like, Wicca what? And then that's
Somerset
when Somerset
confirms.
finally like punches him in the face, like, shut the fuck up, motherfucker.
Mhm,
And punches him. And then yeah, Somerset, because then he goes, oh, he didn't know.
mhm.
Or John Doe says that, and Somerset's
Yeah,
kind of like, oh, this is awkward.
yeah.
And he says if you kill him, he will win. Um,
Mhm,
I thought that I misread it. I thought that because he envied her in his life, like that she was the envy killing.
mhm, mhm.
But um, but yeah, then we get a flash of her head on the screen, and then that's where we get the small little flash, and then it's literally like a second, and then he shoots him a lot.
Yeah,
Shoots him
and
a fuck ton. You see his brains like blow out too. It was pretty gnarly.
pretty
Like you
gruesome,
saw the little like chunks go flying, and I was like, "Well, that's
very
pretty
JFK.
nasty." Oh, poor
And
Jackie.
so, yeah, yeah, and unfortunately, it wraps up with um, Mills getting put into the back of a cop car because he is, going away for the murder of this dude. And it's just kind of all around like a sad ending. But it's not like sad, sad. It's not like terribly sad, but like it is kind of a bummer.
Yeah,
Um, and then they're just like, where are you going to be, Somerset? And then Somerset's like, around.
and then
And
he
then,
says a Hemingway quote.
uh huh.
And he says, "The world is a fine place and worth fighting for." And he goes, "I agree with the second part." And
Hmm.
then the movie goes black.
And that's it.
Screen goes
Yeah.
black. That's it.
Um, do you have any fun facts before we get into our
I
super
do.
duper?
You ready for them now?
Yeah, I want to hear some of them.
Okay. Um, let's see. New Line Cinema executives originally balked at the film's ending, but Brad Pitt refused to make the film if the ending was changed.
Hmm.
So he was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to fucking do this if you change the ending. I guess maybe it's a little too dark.
It was the head thing, I believe. Yeah,
Yeah.
the head in the
And
box.
and then when Mills and Somerset go to Wild Bill's leather store looking for information about John Doe, the clerk says that Doe had a limp. Behind them outside the store, Amanda is limping, shown watching the detectives. Kind of like you said, like
Hmm.
he was everywhere. Um, let's see. Brad Pitt fell while filming the scene in which Mills chases John Doe in the rain. Pitt's arm went through a car windshield, requiring surgery. The accident was worked into the script. Coincidentally, the original script called for Detective Mills to be injured during the sequence. So his
That's
arm was
why.
actually injured and he had to be in a cast.
Oh wow, and that's probably why he looked so banged up when he was actually when in that scene because he's
Yeah.
actually banged up. Yeah.
And then David Fincher told Kevin Spacey and Brad Pitt, "This is not going to be a movie that you're remembered for, but it may be a movie that you're incredibly proud of."
Hmm. That's a
I also
decent way to put
have, as preparation for his traumatic scene in the interrogation room, Leland Orser would hyperventilate so that his body would be overly saturated with oxygen. He also did not sleep for a few days in order to achieve his character's disoriented look. So I'm guessing Leland Orser is the guy who,
That's the dude with the strap-on knife
yeah,
thing. Yeah, which you couldn't tell because whenever
yeah,
they were
he looked
interrogating,
rough.
super like, like yeah,
Yeah.
like in the like panic attack, like yeah. Um, what else? What else?
Yeah. That's all.
That's all. I love the fun facts. Um,
Oh, we got a cameo. Alfonso Freeman, Morgan Freeman's son, as a fingerprint technician.
oh, cool. I have no idea
And
who.
Well, he
Charles
wouldn't
S.
even.
Dutton, the cop who keeps the press out of the greed crime scene. Dutton has a substantial role in director David Fincher's previous movie Alien 3.
Mm, yeah, which everybody loved. Um, but yeah. I think also too, I was wondering if it was gonna be in your fun facts, but there was like 10 different endings for this film. The head in the box was, I think, the main and like first ending, the way they really wanted it. But also there was another ending that they filmed where I feel like I would have almost even enjoyed more, but the ending is so good. But essentially, you know how like Somerset kept mentioning in the film how like he never had to fire his gun once before and like he's never
Mhm.
like shot at anybody. In the end, instead of Mills shooting um John Doe, they had another version where Somerset was the one who ends up like I think it's after the baby thing, like loses his cool and is instead of having Mills having to be the one to take the fall for it, Somerset shoots John Doe in the head
Mm.
instead, which kind
Yeah.
of almost makes even more sense because it's kind of like he ended up becoming so fond of Mills that he broke almost like his code of like ethics to just be like, nah, fuck this guy because this guy's fucked up.
Yeah.
But
But
I also
see,
do
to me,
see.
the original ending makes more sense with, or like the ending that went in the film. Just
Mhm.
because like they were like he liked him, but I can't see him losing his cool that much. I mean, I know that he obviously shared a
Kind of like a
special
similar-ish.
moment with Tracy
Yeah.
and like had an attachment to her. So I could see it in that regards, like for Tracy. But
I almost saw it, like because I think what the other ending was that, like, he ended up doing that and taking it, like, the blame for them in order for Tracy. I don't remember, actually now after
oh,
reading it. It was
one of
something like that.
these says it is a commonly believed myth that when filming the sloth victim scene, the SWAT officers were not told that the victim was still alive and that their startled reaction to the victim coughing was real. And but it says actually they were acting. In an email to New York Times, the director David Fincher credited the screenwriter Andrew Kevin Walker, and he goes, Andy wrote it. It was a great idea, so I filmed it.
So they were aware that it was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Well, that debunked that. Well, now I'm gonna give it 0 stars, 0 booze. I'm just kidding.
0 stars.
Um,
No.
I think that it was a really good film. It was really good. Getting into it, I think that it's a really heavy film. It's pretty dark. Like, definitely watch this film when you're mentally stable, and not when
Mhm.
like your
Did
pregnant
they
wife just died.
film the alternate ending? Because Andrew asked me if you guys are going to watch the alternate ending.
Oh, well, maybe that's maybe the one that I know that they had 10, like they had multiple endings, so I don't know which if that one actually got filmed. There might have been another one that got filmed though. Because I
Yeah.
know that they
Same.
did do different ones, and I know the first time they did the test screening that the first ending, it's different than what we have now. Not
Mm,
I don't think majorly, but I think it's just cut or chopped up differently, edited differently, the sequencing maybe, but yeah. Um, and so overall, I would probably give the film like a 4.5.
4.5.
Yeah, because it is a pretty good film. It's pretty good story. It's got some really like, we got the seven deadly sins. We've got a killer who is really good at manipulating and keeping us in the dark. I like that we didn't know who the killer was for half of the film, essentially. And then it's a really big, like, oh, like here we are, 20 something minutes, 25 minutes left in the film. And it's just like, killer's like, here I am. Hi. What's going on, guys? Hey, it's that TikTok of the little woman, and she's like, "Hey." hi when you show up to the party. You know what I mean?
No.
No? Okay. And so, we have, um, a lot of good people, a lot of great acting on everybody's part, especially from Morgan Freeman. Brad Pitt did pretty good. Um, I mean, Brad Pitt was kinda like one note for me the entire movie, like one, like, tone, if that makes sense. But,
Mhm.
like, he still did good. Like, there weren't, like, really, like, any big, like, peaks or valleys within him. But I guess it's the same thing for a lot of, like, even Somerset's story, like, because their characters didn't necessarily, like, have huge, like, character growth arc moments, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
'Cause they're still the same characters essentially from where we started till the end. Like, if you were to tell me from the beginning that Mills would lose his cool and shoot someone in the head, I'd be like, "Yeah, that's believable because that's who is giving right
Yeah.
now." Yeah. So, but, like, overall, they did really good, and, yeah, I mean, overall, the only thing that I can say is, like, this movie was just a bit heavy for me. Like, in watching it, I was like, "This movie is really sad and really grim and really dark." And that's coming from, like, someone who's pretty got a dark sense of humor, I guess, but maybe because this movie didn't have you know what it was? A lot of movies, I feel like even horror movies kind of do a thing where they, like, balance out with, like, maybe a joke here and there, and I guess we did have the light scene of, like, them having dinner in the middle. That was kind of light, and they laughed, but other than that, like, this movie didn't really have a lot of levity to it. It didn't have a lot of,
Yeah.
like, breathing into it where it kind of gave you any ease. It was pretty much just, like, kind of like a Saw movie, but not as, like, torture porn and not and leaning more into, like, the police side of it, I guess.
Yeah,
Even
definitely.
though Saw movies are super police heavy. No, but it's just, like, more I guess this to me gave, like, really, like, stylized and, like, bougie Saw, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, like, it's more tasteful, it's kinda more tactful, but it's still kind of the same concept where you have a killer who really feels like he's punishing people in terms of, like, how naughty they've been for
Yeah.
what he claims to build his judgment, you know?
And forcing giving them,
Oh, yeah, the forced attrition, what it was
yeah,
called?
forced
Mhm,
attrition and then giving them, like, a way out,
but not
like, 'cause
really.
with but not really, yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
interesting.
because like, who's gonna cut out a pound of their own flesh, like, to get free? Like, that just is, like you wouldn't even be, like, physically possible to do that beyond shock, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, you
exactly.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
4.5 from what do you wanna give it?
Well, I'm
And
gonna read Andrew's next.
okay.
He goes 0 to 5 booze, and I said, "Yes, 5 being the best," and he goes, "7" for
That's so
the
Andrew.
name of the movie.
Yeah.
And then he goes, "My comments," and he said, "What's in the box? What's in the box?" In Brad Pitt's voice. But then he said, "David Fincher is a master of psychological thrillers, and this is a must watch for anyone who hasn't seen it. You know, it's a good movie when Reddit is filled with intriguing fan theories about who the real killer is and how you, the audience, participate in the events that unfold." And then he said 5 out of 5 boos, being
Was John Doe not the real
realistic.
killer?
I guess there's,
What are the fan theories? OMG. It was Tracy
yeah, Tracy was the killer.
the
I
whole
don't
time.
know. Yeah, we'll have to figure out what the fan theories are. I'm intrigued now.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think I don't know. I went in with such high expectations and I did really like it. I thought it was a very enjoyable film. Well, I mean, it was really dark and heavy, but would I watch it again? Like, yeah. But I was like expecting it to like blow me out of the water and I don't feel maybe I need to watch it again. But I think I would still give it like 4 point
7.
I was thinking 4.75, yeah. But then I was also thinking 4.25 and I was like, so I guess
4.27.
4.5 would be in the middle. So maybe I'll rest with you around a 4.5. But I just was like thinking that because when Andrew said like I'm gonna give it a 7, I was like,
Yeah, they
okay,
kind of hyped it up a bit for you, like overhyped it.
yeah. And so then it also doesn't help that like I don't know if I had the ending like previously ruined for me or something.
I think it's
And
definitely one of those, like, you see it, like, on clips on, like, YouTube Shorts and, like, reels or, like, people reference it in pop culture. I think it's
yeah,
definitely something because even me watching it, I've never seen this movie before. I was like I definitely recognized the scene of them driving into that cornfield thing or whatever. I was like, "I've seen
no.
this before," like, or,
Yeah.
like,
I
not,
don't
like,
have any
all of it.
moments like that where I
Mm,
recognized anything, but, like,
mhm,
I don't know if just, like, someone but then, like, I mean, like, it seemed pretty predictable, and so I don't know if, like, somehow it got ruined for me over the years, and because then I was like, "I know exactly what's gonna happen," and then it did happen every
yeah,
time that I had, like, an intuition or something about it, it
yeah.
happened exactly how I thought it
I
would,
mean, this movie is
basically.
really old. Maybe this is one of those movies that was, like, on TNT or TBS when you were getting ready for school back in the day, or, like, whenever you were coming home, like, in the background, you know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe.
I feel like it's one of those type of movies.
Yeah, but I still
Mhm.
don't get me wrong, that sounded like I really disliked it, but I still
It's
think
okay
it
to
was a
hate.
really good movie. No,
It's
I
okay to
think it
hate
was
things that
a
your boyfriend likes, Caitlin.
no, I
I'm
thought it
just
was a
kidding.
really good movie. I thought the acting was phenomenal from everyone involved. I can see what you mean about, like but, like, I felt like yeah, Brad Pitt was just hot-headed the whole time, but I thought he did a job at the end when he was, like, losing his cool.
Mhm,
Um, and then I also think, like, I just thought everyone did a good job, even the minor characters and stuff, and then Kevin Spacey as the assumed killer
mhm.
was really good. Um, and so I don't know if he is the killer, but now I want to know more.
I'm like,
Um,
that doesn't mean I feel like, what does it mean that there were other options? Like, who could
yeah,
have
I'll have
been
to
good?
ask him tonight. Like, what the hell are you
Yeah,
talking about?
because
Because
like, he
I didn't read. I didn't want to. I wasn't done with the movie yet, so I didn't want to read his and his didn't. But I didn't know if it was going to spoil or anything or not,
Mhm.
so I didn't read any of it.
Right, until now.
But not yeah until right now, and so I didn't know even that he mentioned like, and I didn't also see that he said, "Are you guys gonna watch the alternate ending?" Till now, I just didn't read any of it. And so, but yeah, I was like, it just, it was real. I mean, it was good. Yeah, it just
Maybe left you
wasn't
wanting a little more.
it wasn't a 7 for me.
Mhm. Yeah.
um,
Well, people have their
my dad also
wi
really liked this movie. I told him we were covering it today, and he was
yeah,
like, "Oh, that's one of my favorite movies." And I was like, so I had a whole bunch of people in my life being like, "This movie's the fucking best."
yeah.
And
But
then
I
maybe I
think it's
just need a second watch. But
well, I
again,
think like
it's too
anything
dark.
too, people hold like, they like it for some reason too, or maybe it's also, like, a nostalgic thing, also there's a lot of other things go into, like, when you watch a movie, the time you are when you watch it, how old you are when you watch a movie, like, what was going on when you watched the movie, who you watched the movie with, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I know a lot of those things add into it as well. So, like, your 7 for a movie might be someone else's 3 or 5, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it doesn't make, like, the movie itself any less, like, good. So I get what you mean. I know what you mean. Yeah.
I can see
Because
how this
overall,
film would be highly regarded though.
you
Like,
know
and I
what
mean,
you know what
not
the
that
thing
I'm
is
giving
too?
it a bad boo rating. I'm still giving it a 4.5, but like I can see how this film would be like highly, you know, regarded and just people being like this movie was fucking good and like how David Fincher told them like you would be proud of this like I can see why he would tell them that.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a highbrow movie,
Yeah.
right? It's like one of those where it's like it just makes you think a lot.
Mhm.
Um, and I also kind of feel like this movie kind of has a perspective that's kind of more. I feel like this was definitely made more from a male like perspective, gaze, like influence, if that makes sense. Um, so I like it's almost one of those movies where I feel like, and not to be like stereotypical or like or whatever or what I feel like a guy would definitely like I feel like if you were to line up 10 guys and 10 girls, like eight out of the 10 guys would be like, love that movie, bro. And like five girls would be like, oh, I've never seen it. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
just like one of those type of movies. Just because I
Mhm.
feel like the perspective is more lensed through like a male perspective. I mean, obviously, like there's literally only one female character.
Yeah.
But and she
True.
gets her head chopped off. So,
Yeah.
there's patriarchy. No, I'm just kidding. But
Yes, it.
yeah. Yeah, I feel like I can see that. And I feel like that's kind of where I also see like, well, maybe that's also to a lens and maybe even we're kind of like this movie dark. this kind of
Yeah.
it was a little deep. Like, and you're watching this on a Tuesday when the sun's shining and being like, my favorite movie.
Yeah. What's
I
this?
the yeah, no, but so I can see that, but no, it is really good, and it was really insightful, and I think Andrew mentioned that it had kind of like, um, or loose ties to, like, the Zodiac or inspired by the Zodiac killer, I think, um,
Oh, yeah.
and
I
I
think
think
I remember him saying that in
and Andrew
person.
Fincher did make another movie called The Zodiac, based off the actual Zodiac killer. So I wonder if
Yeah.
there's any like ties into them. Um, so and the
Yeah.
Zodiac, I've never seen it.
Zodiac's a good movie.
There's a lot of good. Isn't that like Mark Ruffalo and like
Yeah, Mark Ruffalo, Jake Gyllenhaal.
Daddies? Hmm.
Yeah.
So definitely have to watch that sometime soon. But yeah, that is seven. Unless you have something else to
7,
add.
1995, 7.
Hmm.
4.5 boo, solid 4.5 from us. And
Yes.
then plus Andrew 7 makes it a
5. We'll give it a
5. Yeah.
5.
Because he also
Um,
gave it a 5. He said
yeah.
7 with the sunglasses emoji next to it. He thought he was
Um,
being clever,
he is
but
very clever.
he is clever. Clever
But
boy,
yeah, that is 7, you guys. And
as
yeah,
always.
we are being brought to you by the lovely Rogue Media Network. You can listen to our podcast and other podcasts on their one website at roguemedianetwork.com.
That's right. And if you want to listen to us or any of those other podcasts, you can do so in a variety of places, but the biggest two would be,
Spotify.
and also Apple. And wherever you do listen, don't forget to.
Rate, review, like, and subscribe.
That's right, because that's the only way we can get ahead in this world. And if you want to let us know your thoughts on 7,
Oh, and
or
also if you have seen this so-called alternate ending, let us know what that's about.
yeah, or
Mhm.
like if you think someone is different is the real killer, then let
Mm,
us know that too. Um, because yeah, now I'm curious. But reach out to us on our one social media platform, which is Instagram, and that is at
at BOOBAES podcast because we're your boo bays, not your boo babes.
mm, Jinx. And um until next time, you guys, I don't know what we'll be covering next. We'll figure it out.
We will
We're
figure it
trying we're working. I don't know if any of y'all heard our heretic episode, but we're trying to get the audio back up for that because we recorded it, but then it disappeared. So we're working on getting that back up too.
Yeah.
Um, but
I
so
mean,
we'll have that out eventually for y'all.
worst comes to shove.
Push
We
comes to
might just
shove.
have
Yeah,
to we have to redo it.
it was a
Wouldn't be
good
mad at
episode
it. It
though.
was a good movie. I know. I'm really mad at it because we really enjoyed that movie,
Yeah,
and I
that
feel
one got a
like
solid spoiler alert. It
there
was a
was a lot of
solid 5.
lose a lot of enthusiasm in that one.
Yeah. So
um, I don't
Uh,
know.
but yeah, hopefully we'll get it up for you guys, but we'll figure out what we're recording next and let you know. But until next time, you guys,
Bye, bays.
bye, bays.
BooBaes.
This has been a Rogue Media Network